Welcome to the Writing Center videos. This video, we're going to talk a little bit about how we can use abstracts to select better research when we're doing research. As with all good research, we should have a research question. And the research question that I'm using kind of follows from our previous videos on search terms. And the research question I'm using is, why does social media create more political polarization? But first thing we have to do is actually go through and do some research. So we're going to go over to articles and databases, and we're going to use the database Academic Search Complete because it's really general. So we made a list of some search terms in the previous video. I'm just going to borrow two from that. And I'm going to use the term polarization because that's in my research question as well, and then social media. And like we talked about last time, the computer's trying to help us out, or the search is trying to help us out as far as our search terms go, so we don't have to take those. But let's come down here and tell the system that we want scholarly peer-reviewed journal articles because those are the top quality of research, and we definitely want those. And this way we don't have to worry about cutting them out. So we've got two search terms here. We're using the and because we want articles that have polarization and social media. So we have 94 sources that are scholarly, have polarization and social media somewhere mentioned in them. First thing we want to come down here and do is make sure that we're talking about a contemporary conversation. So we probably want to make sure that things are in the last 8 to 10 years. I'm going to bet that we can find information in the last 10 years. So we're going to update that. Okay, so that cut out a couple, not as much as we maybe wanted, but that's good. We've got a good research question that a lot of people have addressed. So let's go over here to our sort. And we're going to sort by relevance, and this works kind of similarly to how Google's algorithm works. The more people click on it, the more they think it's relevant. So let's click on that to kind of weed out some things that aren't going to be as helpful. So again, as a reminder, why does social media create more political polarization? We're going to go and take a look at the results. So we've got some really good titles here. Exposing to opposing views on social media can increase political polarization. So that seems to answer my question pretty directly. Let's look at these subjects: polarization in social sciences, social media, social network analysis. Oh, network analysis is a great word if we're thinking about how people operate in the world. So that sounds pretty good. Let's see, learning from Senate candidates in the age of social media and party polarization. Again, we have some really good key terms in here. Digital media, political polarization, and challenges to democracy. As you can see by the subject term here, this one talks about Brexit, so it's not going to be about the U.S. That could be a direction that I could take in my paper if I wanted to. And you know what? Let's take another look at this one because it talks about Brexit, but then it also talks about the United States presidential election. So let's see what else the information page can tell us. So you can see from the abstract, it's pretty short, and the editor of this journal issue is talking about the other articles within the issue. So that's not really going to be helpful. Unfortunately, it's a great title, but because we read the abstract, we can see that it's definitely not going to help us. So hidden biases and fake news, finding a balance between critical thinking and cynicism. This seems a lot more like what I want, and it talks about cognitive psychology. That's a route that I could take. So let's go in here. There's some more subject terms in there. The article focuses on classroom discussions about fake news and mentions the increase in political polarization with biases, which is used to explain why the other side is wrong. Topics discussed include encouraging students to acknowledge and confirmational biases. Okay, so I know that this isn't going to be as helpful for me because it talks about students in a classroom environment, and that's really not what I think that my search term's about. So instead of just pulling things and in making them work for me, I can look at these abstracts and think, like, what am I really talking about? And what do I want to write about? So let's go back up to the first result. This has some author supplied keywords, which are helpful because that's how the author themselves are characterizing the paper. We have a nice long abstract here. So let's read through it and skim it. Let's see, mounting concern, social media sites contribute to political polarization, creating echo chambers, insulate people from opposing views. So they surveyed Democrats and Republicans who use Twitter. So respondents were resurveyed at the end of the month to measure the effect. So it seems like a good qualitative research and talks about not just that social media creates political polarization, but it maybe talks a little bit about how. So that's definitely going to be a article I want to email to myself or save to my Google Drive. Let's go back to our results list. So you can see how we can use those abstracts to really help us vet our sources and make sure they're actually going to help us answer our question. And if we find more sources that are not really about what we're asking or question about, that means we need new search terms. There's a lot of avenues here, but it seems as though my search terms are kind of good, but not great. The last thing that I want to cover in this video is to just give a warning in that abstracts can give a lot of really good information and it's really condensed. But you want to make sure that you actually go over to the PDF and take a look at it. So let's go to the PDF. And if we were just going to look at the abstract, what we're missing is some really important stuff like this one. They've put the significance of this article right in this nice big box for us. So that could be something that's really important to read and might have some good places to quote from. We can go down to, we've got charts that are really useful, maybe useful more for us reading than useful for a paper that we're writing. However, there's a lot of really good information buried within some of these charts. So if we just read the abstract, we would be missing all of this. And then most importantly, if we don't just pull it up and read it, we would be missing all of these other people's sources. So if you find an article that you really like, make sure to open it up because they are going to find sources for you more in the vein of what you're actually looking for. So don't miss out on really, really good information by just focusing on the abstract and not actually getting into the article because you're going to miss a lot of really interesting stuff that could help you make your argument and to make better claims. Thanks for watching this video and we'll see you next time.